What are you doing here? Does that mean something bad is about to... Fine. I'll answer them. Fine.
Couple of huge news things off the top. One, the beard is making a comeback. Two, big man on campus, one of the Twitch mods sent me this like Eastern Michigan. This is the official Eastern Michigan esports jersey. Kind of makes me feel like a Power Ranger, so we'll be keeping it on for the duration of the video to satisfy 5-year-old me. Just kidding. My mom didn't let me watch Power Rangers when I was 5. Maybe that's why I'm so well adjusted. But it was pointed out to me recently that I had not involved the greater Twitter community in a video in quite some time. So what we've done today is opened up a platform for you to ask me any question about Football Manager on Twitter. You have to be following me for me to answer this question because I'm petty. And I'd like to think we'd all be that way if we could. First, with a right to forego reality and put fans in stadiums from games start? I think not. They can now never use the We Are a Football Manager simulator with any weight. I thought it would add such an interesting extra difficulty to deal with finances. One, you're a sadist. You love pain. The financial implication of no fans being allowed in stadiums playing out in Football Manager would not only break the long-term simulation of the engine, it would also make your life so difficult because the engine's not designed for clubs to not be having that money come in. They would have to come up with a whole bunch of other things that might be happening in real life but are completely one-off situations, like money sharing agreements, and you have to go to each country individually and figure out how that country is dealing with its various football, soccer clubs not having the money and how the leagues are splitting up the sharing. You can completely understand why they decided to put fans in the stands the moment that you start a save in Football Manager 21. So why do you want the pain? I think we need to psychoanalyze that. And the statement like they can now never use the We Are a Football Manager simulator ever again. I mean, in one of the previous streamer showdowns, not the last one, but the one before that, like a fourth of the entire goals in the tournament were scored off of long throws. And the last time I checked a major international tournament, that wasn't even close to accurate. Football Manager is still the best football simulator on the market. It just isn't perfect. The fans were put in the stands to make life normal and to not have to waste like a whole month of game production on making sure the rules were right and how the finances were being balanced out across the world, or making Barcelona bankrupt. I mean, in their defense, I misplace $1.2 billion all the time. I just don't usually misplace it on Coutinho. Boom! Karate chop in the boom! Ska! That's right. We come here for the burns. How important is aggression? So there's Boris. I was just making sure that it said what I thought it did. I'm going to live up to Dr. Benji's assessment of me as somebody that hovers over things and then reads them to you, because there's a big misconception that aggression is tied to that like thing that you see when you look in the pros and cons where it goes, this player's kind of dirty, huh? There it is. Like the competitive streak can occasionally lead him to bending the rules, right? That is a hidden attribute called dirtiness that my assistant coach Ponzorder is picking up on here. That has nothing to do with aggression, because when you hover over aggression, it is not necessarily the player's dirtiness. I know this isn't exactly what you're asking, but I figured I would like just clear this up. It's the player's willingness to get stuck in, like their determination to go get that person. They might give away more fouls because they're going to involve themselves in more challenges, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to pick up more yellow or red cards, because it doesn't mean that they are like a dirtier player. They're just more willing to throw themselves into stuff. And this compares to bravery, where bravery is a little bit more abstract. Aggression is like actually their willingness to just get stuck into a challenge, where bravery is their willingness to just throw their body around and can actually lead to more injuries. So bravery can be a bad thing, and as players get hurt more, their bravery goes down and those sorts of things. So how important is aggression? On a ball-winning midfielder, it is incredibly important. On a winger, it's not very important. That's basically it. How complex are tactics? Says Jacob. Well, Jacob, they don't have to be complex. Here's the misunderstanding about tactics. Are tactics the most important thing? No, the talent level of your team is the most important thing. You could win the This is actually a great idea for a challenge. You can win the Champions League with a preset tactic much easier than you can win the Champions League because of your tactic with a less talented team, right? Like if you have the most talented team in the world and you put up a preset tactic, I mean, like you go to tactics and you say, we are going to create a new tactic. And you just go preset gegenpress like 4-2-3-1, boom, and you don't touch anything. It is going to be much easier to win if you have an incredibly talented team than not. So how complicated are they? They're as complicated as you want them to be. You can succeed and do everything you want to in the game without really understanding tactics. I obviously play a ton of Football Manager, have a decent feel for this stuff. I never claim to be the best player at Football Manager, right? Because that's an abstract concept. They call me Socrates in the club. Do you know that Socrates actually was against writing? Like every old person ever, he hated the new technology, except the new technology was writing. How can someone so smart hate the written word? These questions and more answered on my history podcast, which is linked down in the description. Episode 2 coming soon. It will probably not be about Socrates, but that's a fun fact for the day. Also completely irrelevant to the fact that tactics are as complicated as you want them to be. You pick up more of a feel for them as long as you're willing to tweak with things. You get the idea. How do youth intakes actually work? Is that known? No. But here is my best understanding of them. I've made videos about youth intakes before, but what I think I have not stressed enough in those videos is that there is a lot left up to chance. There is, however, some stuff that you can do to help youth intakes be better. First, obviously, when you go to your club info, you go to facilities, you see things like junior coaching and youth recruitment. Every time you have the opportunity to go to Club Vision, make a board request and go to networking, you should ask to improve your youth recruitment and improve your junior coaching. If the club doesn't feel that that's something they should do, then, well, they won't do it. The youth recruitment affects in large part the quality of the player that's coming in. The junior coaching affects in large part the level of player, or the level the player is when they come in out of your youth intake and into your actual team. So like how close their current ability is to their potential ability. And junior coaching also allegedly affects the potential ability of the players, and so does youth facilities. So in the facilities section, so often and for years of my own life, I thought the youth facilities were for the youth teams and the training facilities were for the senior teams. No, the training facilities are for the youth and senior teams. The youth facilities are for players that aren't in the game yet. And so the better youth facilities that you have, the better potential and better ability that your youth players are going to have. You also should, every time you're about to get a youth intake that comes in, you should get a magic shroud. It should look something like this, and then you just throw it around here, just like this, right? And then once you do that, you sign a head of youth development that has a good personality, because they'll attract players that match their personality. They will also attract players that match not only their personality, they'll attract players that match their preferred formation. So that preferred formation is a 4-4-2, then you're not going to get a lot of advanced winger type players. That's an issue. You also, before the youth intake comes in, should don your traditional sunglasses, your ceremonial sunglasses. You should then get a lighter. You should then at this point start to chant and light some incandescence. This is a terrible idea. Ah! Oh, goodness. I'm such an idiot. I used to be a Boy Scout. That's the worst idea I've ever had. I'm just going to open a window real quick. It's nothing. It's nothing at all. I think all of that is going to help you with your youth intake. How do I get any of my young, high potential players to improve? What is the best training schedule? I'm still working on setting up tests for training schedules. There are some great YouTubers that have taken stabs at this already, namely Fox in the Box. There's also a guy named Bust the Net who does some great stuff on training. I'm still setting up my own tests, so I've got nothing to recommend that like I have done. In terms of the other best ways to develop players, try not to train them into new positions too early in their career because you're soaking up current ability, and try not to train player traits on them too early in their career because that also soaks up current ability and lessens their ability to improve in other areas to reach their potential. It's a fine art form, and I do actually have a video about player development, not necessarily the training side of it, but just overall ways to think about player development that you can see the thumbnail right there. Why am I so addicted to this game? You are not the only one. Football Manager is built to just be incredibly addictive. If you get sucked into a storyline, then you end up making Football Manager your job. How long would it take to perfectly train Harry Kane to be a ball-playing center back? So Harry Kane actually has not put together a great amount of ability to be a kind of libero ball-playing center back, but he's never going to be a strong tackler. But in terms of like a cover style player, I think he's capable. In terms of how long it would take, he's fairly versatile as it is. A year, maybe, to be accomplished at it. Like actually playing him there, training him there. I think in a year, he would be somebody that you could reliably put in at center back and he wouldn't get lost. As for why you would want to do that, I can't help you there. Why do players' stats only show league appearances? You have to click on each season to see if they have played any cup games. Would have thought all competitive games would count towards appearances. They should. I don't know why they don't. It's annoying. I hope they fix it. That's why I'm answering this question. How do you manage having 4 or 5 quality young players at the same position? This often happens at like attacking midfielder, at striker. Usually at one of your wing spots starts to back up as you build a powerhouse program at some club. The way you have to actually take care of this is figure out what these guys do well and what they don't, because no two players are exactly the same. You have to go to the comparison screen. If you don't know where it is, you go here, you go comparison, and then you pick out the other players, figure out what attributes these guys are sporting, what attributes these guys are lacking. And obviously not everybody has the exact same potential either. So the more somebody's improving, the better they're doing when they're playing, the better they're doing when they're not playing. In terms of development, are all things you need to factor in. You take the bottom 2 guys and loan them out. You rotate the other 3, and in January, the guy that plays the least out of the 3, you loan that guy out too. This is assuming they're all at least 18. If they're younger than that, or maybe they're improving really well even though they're not playing, you can keep that person at the club too and work them into a couple of matches. Then once they start getting up to 21, 22, you essentially are going to know what you have. They still have some improvement left in the tank at that point, but no massive giant dramatic improvements are left in the tank at that point, unless they're getting every single game's worth of playing time. So you can start to sell off the people that have been getting a couple of seasons on loan or have been playing a couple of seasons with you and just kind of flamed out. They haven't improved, or somebody else improved more. You sell them off, capitalize on value before that person sits on the bench for 3 years and everybody forgets how good they are, and move on. What do you put your faith in most? Attributes, star ratings, ability, or potential coaches or scouts? Form, morale, strong links with other players in the pitch, asking for a friend. I put my most faith in attributes. Attributes are the most important because that is actually determining the odds of a player successfully accomplishing something. A player with 16 passing is more likely to be able to execute a pass than a player with 14 passing. That doesn't mean that sometimes the player with 14 passing won't execute a pass that the player with 16 passing just doesn't, because if you flip a coin 10 times and you get heads 8 times, right, that doesn't mean... I need another analogy. So you have a die, right? And yes, I did just go find a giant wooden die. Let's say 3 of the 6 sides on this die are a 5. So I roll this die 1 time. There's a 50% chance I'm going to get a 5, but I also could not. Now, let's say this die, which is obviously the same one, but hypothetically speaking, this die is completely normal. It's got a 5 on one side, and everything else on the other side. Life is good. I could conceivably roll this die and get a 5, and then roll this die and not get a 5. Does that mean that you would rather have this die than this die? No, obviously not. Oops. If you had to choose a sport to be involved in that's not football, what would it be? Basketball. I always loved basketball. I played baseball. I played American football, or just football. Sometimes I throw myself off when I say American football because it's just not like... that does not come naturally to me. I played those sports, that's the point, but basketball, I love playing. I've played a lot more basketball than soccer in my life, that's for sure. When we go to a TwitchCon or something, or one of those YouTube things, whenever this opens up, since I'm like all vaccinated now anyways, let's play some basketball. I'm gonna ball you fools up. Are there any pro managers that actually play it? Yeah, remember when they did the All Access Tottenham? Maybe Reese can find the clip where they showed Jose Mourinho's desktop and Football Manager 20 was on it. That was cool. I like to think Jose watches the videos. Why are Spurs impossible to win the league with? Don't make a Tottenham joke, Zealand. I swear I do not. Don't. You make too many. Don't make another Tottenham joke. Resist the urge, please, Zealand. Zealand, don't do it. Does loaning a player too much hurt his value development? It can hurt his development if he doesn't have bad adaptability. Doesn't really do anything to their value. If anything, it helps it. They play well, then that's better than not playing at all. How important is personality? Sometimes it can tell you nothing, like balanced. Sometimes it can tell you everything, like model professional or model citizen. How do you make Football Manager harder? Start with a worse team that has rules and stuff. Play with Atletico Bilbao and tell me how hard easy Football Manager is, okay? Rely on your youth intake exclusively to try and win, then it'll get a lot harder. How much of the game is based on randomness? Would love to see an analysis of how often things go down to random number generators. There's really no way to answer this question other than appreciating the fact that Football Manager actually hides the RNG, because that to me makes the game what it is, a very realistic experience of trying everything you can to affect the game in a positive way. Are you going to beat Lelujo in a streamer showdown this season? Lelujo stepping in and saying, I'll take this one. No, he isn't. Right? I didn't need to, because you lost to Ben in the semifinal. If you don't know what the streamer showdown is, there will be, they happen almost every month. They're the Football Manager Championship, which fortunately I am able to curry an invite to most of the time and participate in. I am a one-time Football Manager champion. Lelujo is a 5-time Football Manager champion, and that is obviously due to sheer luck. I mean, come on, he won 2 of the finals on penalty shootouts. Like, why is it no fun to play with your real-life favorite team? Because Football Manager, to me, is about the stories, but it's about the stories of the club. And when you're playing as your real team, you have to deal with the actual players, some of whom in Football Manager might be a little worse than you want to interact with. And so you have to kind of dish on some of your favorite players maybe and cut them out to improve on your team and move forward, which you probably and typically don't want to do, which can be a problem. Okay, thank you guys. The footage I'm sending Ayal and Reese is actually over an hour long, but it also includes a couple of guitar distractions, me almost burning my room down, and going to the bathroom in the middle of filming the video. So pray for them. I'll see you guys on stream.